If you were a kid growing up in the 90s, you need no formal introduction to the world of Power Rangers. It all started with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which aired its first episode back in 1993 and has kept on expanding the franchise ever since. There have been numerous iterations of the show over the years, right from Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers to the latest Power Rangers Dino Fury. But have you heard of the Omega Rangers? And no, we're not talking about Sam from SPD. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video to learn more about the Omega Rangers. Before we get into our explanation, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot, so thank you, and let's begin. Who are the Emissaries, and why did they create the Omega Rangers? Before we explore how the Omega Rangers were created, we need to know about the three Emissaries. The Emissaries are said to be immortal beings possessing powers beyond imagination and are representatives of the Morphin Masters residing in the Morphin Grid itself. When Zordon approached them, trying to explain the evil within Lord Drakkon and the capabilities he possessed, the Emissaries didn't pay much heed to him. The Emissaries failed to assess the threat posed by Drakkon and refused to take the matter before the Masters, stating that the Masters would not get involved in trivial matters that bothered humans and sent Zordon back to Earth. Even though they were a little apprehensive about their decision to send Zordon back to Earth, later they would realize the massive blunder they had made. They had simply underestimated the powers and capabilities of Drakkon, which they would later realize when he defeated them, and Drakkon gained access to the heart of a master. After that, the Emissaries had no choice but to sit back and witness Drakkon destroy entire dimensions and universes with the help of the heart. Later, they would own up to their mistakes before Zordon and the Power Rangers. They would go on to explain the situation of the grid, which was like a shattered mirror. They said that even if the pieces were somehow put together, things would never be the same. And they also told the Rangers that after the final battle, those who took part in it wouldn't remember anything and would just return to their timeline and dimension. This anomaly in the grid led to the rising of certain beings known as the Empowered, while the rest of the universe was subjected to destruction from the leaking grid energy. These people were unaware of things such as the grid or Rangers, and only knew that something had gone wrong. One such being was Kia, who would later become the Blue Omega Ranger. However, despite the Emissaries refusing to help, the Blue Emissary would go on to approach Jason, the Red Ranger, while he was practicing in his garage. The Emissary told Jason that he had been waiting for the right time to approach him, and that he was the one who had helped in rebuilding the universe, and that he would need Jason's help in saving it. Jason, who failed to recognize the Emissary, inadvertently resorted to attacking him. The Emissary, however, tried to remind Jason how he had previously helped him thwart Drakkon's attempts at infiltrating the grid. A confused Jason asked him why he didn't remember any of that, to which the Emissary replied that when the universe was restored, Jason lost all his memories of the incident. Jason inquired why the Emissary was telling him all this, to which the Emissary replied that even though the timeline had been restored, Morphin energy was seeping in through cracks in the universe, causing a lot of damage, and he wanted Jason to take charge of the forces to stop this from happening. Jason insisted on approaching Zordon with the matter, but the Emissary stopped him by saying that he was taking a risk by revealing this to Jason since it threatened the integrity of the restored timeline. Jason then told him that in the face of imminent danger, he was not the right person to lead them, telling the Emissary that he had just lost a man and was struggling to keep the team out of trouble. He also reminded the Emissary of the Zed, who was still around causing trouble. Left with no other option, the Emissary went on to restore Jason's memory, which came as a bit of a shock to Jason, making him collapse as he found it difficult to fathom all of this information at once. The Emissary apologized for his move and hoped that Jason would be able to forgive him. Jason got up and tried to grasp everything, but then Alpha reached out to him, asking for his help against Zed's new monster. Despite the Emissary warning Jason about the time constraint, Jason decided to help his friends first. After the battle with Zed's monster, Jason could again be seen practicing when the Blue Emissary appeared once more. Jason told him that he remembered everything that had happened, which included the death of Tommy, and everything else they did to stop Drakkon. He also remembered dying on the moon inside Q-Rex, which confused him because before his memory was restored, he didn't remember fighting Drakkon. The Emissary told him that to restore his memories, he had to subject him to the past, present, and future all at once. But regardless of everything, Jason decided to help the Emissary, but told him that he wouldn't leave his team behind, but instead would help the Emissary create a new team to tackle the situation. Instead of responding to Jason, the Emissary inquired if Jason saw a glimpse of anything, to which Jason said that after he had defeated Draken, he heard a voice from behind which said that Draken was only the first. When he turned around to see who it was, he saw the shadows of all the enemies who were about to come, not just to threaten Earth, but the entire universe. Jason had figured out that he needed a team to help the Emissary, but while thinking about it, he got another glimpse, which was cut short by the Emissary. Jason told him that he was fine, to which the Emissary pointed out that Jason could barely breathe or move, to which Jason insisted that he was fine and would help him assemble the team. The Emissary asked Jason to recruit a few of the existing Rangers, to which Jason reminded him of the agreement they had, according to which the Emissary would help restore Tommy's powers, and for that, Jason would find new Ranger candidates. The Emissary reminded him that this move would have consequences and that Jason might not remain the leader of the Rangers, to which Jason agreed. Later, when Jason was trying to figure out the console with the help of the Emissary, he reminded Jason that he did not take his sacrifice lightly. But right then, Trini and Zack showed up and inquired who the blue-hooded person was and what he had done with Zordon and Alpha. As Jason was about to explain the situation, he was stopped by the Emissary, who stated that it could lead to unexpected possibilities. Right then, all the Rangers were informed by Billy that they had located Zordon and Alpha, and all of them were asked to show up at the lab. After that, all the Rangers got together and went on to face Nimrod, but unfortunately, they had to retreat. Zack and Trini were discussing the blue Emissary when he showed up before them. The Emissary apologized for his sudden appearance and told them that he had to visit them like that because Jason wouldn't appreciate the fact that the Emissary had decided to speak with Zack and Trini. Seeing that Zack and Trini were a little skeptical, the Emissary assured them that he meant no harm. Trini asked him what he had done to Jason, to which he replied that he had restored the memories of a war erased by time. Zack was frustrated with the Emissary because he kept on twisting words without saying anything specific. On the other hand, Trini asked the Emissary if he could share the details with them as well. The Emissary refused, stating the fragile condition of reality, comparing it to standing on a thin sheet of ice, to which Trini replied that if their friend Jason was going through it, they would as well, to which Zack agreed. The Emissary praised Trini and Zack for their unwavering sense of friendship and loyalty, and restored their memories. Zack and Trini later caught up with Jason at school, where they asked him about his secret mission. Jason told them that he was thinking about talking to Zordon about everything that was going on, but Trini and Zack implied that Zordon wouldn't remember any of it. This made Jason realize that the Emissary had restored their memories. Jason didn't like the fact that the blue Emissary restored their memories because he didn't want anyone else to get involved, thinking it was his solitary struggle, but both of them reminded him that they had been in everything together and that they would help build the new team. The trio head out to space. Later, the three of them left for their mission after they caught up with Billy and Kim, telling them that they had a scuba trip that they had planned earlier, and lying that Billy and Kim had previously refused to be a part of it. After that, they were teleported to a spacecraft where they were greeted by the Emissary, who thanked them for taking on the perilous journey. The three Rangers, however, raised their concerns. They asked the Emissary whether Alpha would get to know if they morphed in space. The Emissary assured them that he would mask their morphing energy, making it undetectable for Alpha. Z told the Rangers that he had pinpointed a cluster of morphin energy spikes in the Kuja solar system, spanning several planets in the system for which the Rangers had to investigate each and every planet. The Emissary further warned the Rangers, telling them that after Draken's actions, there were individuals who were granted immense powers, but it was up to them how they chose to use them. Trini concluded that the missions they would be undertaking could turn out to be rescue missions, or they could end up fighting for their own lives. On their way to the first mission, the three of them thought about the other Rangers on Earth and the difficulties they might face in their absence. Jason tried to assure Zack and Trini that Billy, Tommy, and Kim would be able to handle the situation since they had done it in the past as well, but Zack replied that the three of them wouldn't even be able to form a complete Megazord. Jason told Zack that they had no other option because they could not let the bad guys run wild, and until they found new recruits, they had to deal with the situation by themselves. Trini, however, was a little concerned because they had a huge responsibility of choosing the new recruits, and they didn't know where to start. The three Rangers meet Kia for the first time. When the spacecraft got close to the planet from which they had received a huge energy signature, the Rangers were teleported to the planet in close proximity to the energy signature. Once on the planet, the Rangers noticed a huge mob of at least 50 people attacking a hooded figure. With a bit of skepticism, the Rangers approached the crowd, not knowing the motive of the person being attacked. The one under attack was actually Kia, who was being assaulted after the inhabitants of the planet Kuja saw what the sudden burst of energy did. Kia was trying to defend herself from the angry mob when the Rangers Rangers tried to intervene. Zack asked the mob to step back, to which they said that Kia was a witch who had attacked their village and summoned monsters, having no idea of the grid. Jason tried to tell them that they were the Power Rangers and were there to help, and that they came from another planet. This made the naive villagers think that they were some sort of sky invaders. Jason further tried to explain that they were protectors and not invaders, and that Kia had been exposed to grid energy, but the villagers had cut him short and insisted that she had been exposed to black magic. Trini figured out that the villagers were too naive to understand what Jason was saying and asked him to use simpler words to get the message through. Zack tried to make the people understand that swinging their torches wouldn't help, but they insisted that the Rangers hand over Kia to them, whom they would burn and purify before she infected them all. Kia, who had been trying to defend herself from the villagers without causing any major damage until then, got frustrated and punched the ground, causing a landslide on the nearby hill. The Rangers tried to protect the villagers who had been trying to kill them until then. Once they had successfully saved the fleeing crowd, Trini headed for a nearby cave to search for Kia. Inside the cave, Trini found an upset Kia sitting down and thinking to herself whether she had used excessive force. When Trini approached her, she warned Trini and asked her to back off. Trini assured Kia that she meant no harm and also told her that she had enough encounters with monsters to tell the difference, and according to Trini, Kia was no monster. Kia further inquired who Trini was and what she wanted from her, to which she replied that she only wanted to help. She told Kia that she was aware of her situation, but this made Kia a little suspicious, thinking Trini was the reason behind the situation. Trini told her that she could help, but first they must go somewhere safe. This made Kia think that Trini was trying to lure her into a trap, but Trini assured her that she knew exactly how she felt, because she was in a very similar situation not too long ago. Trini asked her to calm down and told her that she didn't need to do it alone. Kia told her that she didn't want to hurt anyone, and Trini assured her that if she came with them, they would make sure she didn't. Following this, they formally introduced themselves. Trini and Kia caught up with Jason and Zack, and after that, they were teleported back to the spacecraft. Once they were back on the spacecraft, Jason told the Emissary how they had managed the situation on Kuja, to which the Emissary replied that they were lucky this time around. Zack, however, told the Emissary that he wouldn't consider themselves fortunate because they had no idea how powerful Kia was, to which Trini agreed. Jason asked the Emissary about the powers of the Empowered, and Trini also asked him about Kia's abilities. The Emissary told them that he had no intention of downplaying the situation, but in reality, with Kia on board, it would be easier for him to figure out the relation that the Empowered shared with the grid, and asked Trini about Kia, to which Trini replied that Kia was resting, but she had questions for the Emissary. The Emissary said it was not the questions that bothered him, but the answers, and more specifically, Kia's response to them. He then told the Rangers that she would get her answers in time, but until then, they had to save a lot of people like her, and the Emissary engaged in similar missions from then on, trying to save as many Empowered as they could. Kia also did her part in helping them out of gratitude for saving her life. Zack came up with an idea and decided to make Kia a part of the team. Jason then asked the Emissary how many Empowered were still out there to be rescued, to which he replied a few, and then proceeded to show them each and every energy surge in that part of the quadrant. This made Jason exclaim that with so many more lives to save, they would have to go on many more scuba trips. Finding replacements. Once the three Rangers returned to Earth, Jason decided to check on his father, and Trini decided to catch up with Kim to finish her homework. But when Jason asked Zack about his plans, a tense Zack replied that they needed to get back and couldn't toss a random bunch of strangers to deal with their problems. Jason told him that he had been thinking about it all this while. Later, when they showed up before Zordon, the three of them told him that they had to leave for a peace conference in Switzerland. The three of them lied about their reasons for leaving because there were other problems in the world that needed to be addressed besides Rita and Zed. So Jason came forward and told Zordon that it might be shocking, but they were leaving for good, while hoping he wasn't disappointed with them. Zordon dismissed their concerns, stating that it was wonderful news, and no one remained a Ranger forever. Zordon, however, added that with Zed and Rita still at large, they would need to replace them urgently. It was then that Rocky, Aisha, and Adam were chosen to replace Jason, Trini, and Zack respectively. Who are the members of the Omega Rangers? When the trio returned to the spacecraft, the Blue Emissary decided to show them the Omega Gauntlets once used by the earliest Power Rangers that protected the innocent from evil almost a millennia ago. The Emissary further elaborated that their connection with the grid was both ancient and primal, and that the ranks of those Rangers had remained dormant for too long, but it was the right time to use these powerful weapons. He went on to present the gauntlets to Jason, Kia, Trini, and Zack, appointing them as the new Omega Rangers. Rangers, the universe's last line of defense. Jason was appointed the Red Ranger for being fearless and resourceful. Zach was chosen to be the Black Ranger for being social and bold. Kia was appointed the Blue Ranger for her ambitious nature and powers. And last but not least, Trini was chosen to be the Yellow Ranger for being rational and resilient. Later, we got to see a few changes in the team when Jason quit after a skirmish with the Death Ranger, and Trini was appointed the new Red Ranger. Kevor Vryn, an orphan from the planet Hartunia, was given the mantle of the Yellow Ranger. Kia also had a fallout with the team when she learned that the Blue Emissary had presented Tommy with the white light. She would go on to kill the Emissary and release Covetous and Garrison Vox to help her kill the Rangers. A new Blue Ranger, named Yale, was chosen in her place. Yale hailed from the planet of Sard, and was an alien that looked like a cat, and was raised by the Omega Rangers and Z as a pet after the Empowered had lost their powers. Apart from the 4 members, there was also the Gold Ranger named Spa-Ark, who was a genderless being and used to be a part of the Omega Rangers till he betrayed them and became the Death Ranger, their arch nemesis. The powerful Omega Zords used by the Omega Rangers. Like every other Power Ranger, the Omega Rangers had their own Zords. The Red Omega Zord was summoned by the Red Ranger and attacked its adversaries using Omega Fire Fury, in which it unleashed a ball of fire towards its enemies and defended itself using Omega Fire Shield, an energy shield. The Black Omega Ranger piloted the Black Omega Zord and used an Omega Sonic Strike, a type of lightning attack, against its adversaries. Piloted by the Yellow Omega Ranger, the Yellow Omega Zord used Omega Spectrum Blast, an energy blast that it could unleash from either its back or chest with the help of Spectrum 2 spacecraft. Although the Blue Omega Zord was annihilated after Kia's powers were taken away from her, later, the Zord was rebuilt and given to Yale. Apart from these 4 Zords, there was also the Gold Omega Zord, which Spa-Ark previously piloted. The Zords together could form Megazords like the Ultra Omega Zord, which was created by combining the red, blue, yellow, and black Omega Zords, and also the Ultra Gold Omega Zord, which was formed by combining the Gold Omega Zord with the Ultra Omega Zord. Apart from these 2 Megazords, there was also the Red Tiger Omega Zord, which was formed by combining the Red Omega Zord with the White Tiger Zord, and was created to combat the Blue Omega Zord. Last but not least, there was the Omega Blue Thunder Omega Zord, which was formed by combining every Thunder Zord with the Blue Omega Zord, except for the Unicorn Thunder Zord. This Megazord was created to stop Alpha 1 from absorbing the Blue Omega Zord. What makes the Omega Rangers so powerful? The Omega Rangers represented the 4 classic elemental powers. The Red Ranger represented fire, Blue Ranger represented water, the Black Ranger represented air, and the Yellow Ranger represented earth. Apart from their elemental powers, the Red, Yellow, Black, and Gold Rangers used Omega Blasters, while the Blue Ranger used a claw-like weapon. Each Ranger also had their own specific weapon. Red Ranger's main weapon was his Omega Katana. The Black Ranger used Omega Kamas, the Yellow Ranger used Omega Hammer, and the Blue Ranger used Omega Trident. Marvelous verdict. The Omega Rangers are one of the most powerful groups of Rangers to have ever existed, and what makes it even more fun is that their story is intertwined with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and explains a lot of things, like why Jason had no problem with Tommy becoming the leader of the group, which was never addressed in the original series. These facets of nostalgia, coupled with fascinating characters, make it even more interesting to deep dive into the Boom Comics Omega Rangers story arc. That's all for this video, but if you enjoyed it, please like and share, and for more exciting videos, please subscribe to our channel. And, as always, have a marvelous day.